Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Polina. So in today's video, I want to share some really big struggles and the biggest challenges that I faced when moving to Germany. So I moved to Germany with my partner about 7-8 months ago. It was in October 2021. And before moving, I was living in Spain for 6 years. So it was quite a big change. And even though I was already used to living abroad because I'm originally from Russia, so I was already a foreigner in Spain, even though I was kind of used to being an expat. In 6 years in Spain, I already built my life. And by the end of those 6 years, I felt really comfortable and settled in the country. So moving to Germany was really out of my comfort zone. And the first big challenge was that I moved to a small town and I'm still living in a small town in Germany. And it's weird because in Spain I was also not living in really big cities, but the density of population in Spain is so much higher, and there is, especially on the coast, there is so many people and there is so many foreigners as well, that even if you're living in a small town, it doesn't feel small because there's just a lot going on. And here in Germany, it's not the same, at least not in the area where I'm living. I'm living in a small town in Bavaria, and it's really small. It's like 17,000 people. And it was really hard in the beginning to adapt to this. And it's still hard. I'm definitely not feeling completely settled yet, but not speaking German, and just the fact that it's a small town and there is not much going on, it's very hard to meet people. And I think for me, meeting people and being a part of a local group of people or local community is one of the things that impacts the most this feeling of feeling settled, if you know what I mean, feeling that you belong and feeling like you're part of something in that place. And living in a small town in Bavaria, it has really been a big challenge. And actually, I heard some people saying that even for Germans, completely eliminating the language factor, moving to a new place and to a smaller town, it's really difficult to actually meet people and make friends in the end. And I think there is a lot of factors that influence that, like the weather and location and so on. People in Germany versus people in Spain are not so outgoing and so on. So it's definitely people are more in their own circles, I feel, in their families and with their close friends. Whereas in Spain, for example, everyone is really open and people mingle, and it's much easier to kind of make friends. And the second point and the second big challenge is, of course, language. I mean, unless you come with a really fluent, high level of language in the country where you're moving, it's gonna be one of the biggest challenges and one of the biggest struggles. Language is everything. You have to learn the language. You have to have a good level to feel even remotely comfortable in the country. At least that's how I feel. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel settled in the new country until I actually can express myself and can understand people really well. So when I came to Germany, I actually already spoke German because before this move, I already lived in Germany for some time, 6 years ago, when I had a semester abroad from my university, and I had a pretty good level at the time. I had B2 at some point, and I came here thinking that in 1 week, in 2 weeks, my German is just going to come back to me and I'm gonna feel good, I already know so much German. And that was not the case. Pretty soon after my arrival, I was in a shock of how bad my German was, because I couldn't understand people at all on the street and I couldn't really express myself. I was, especially after living in Spain for so many years, I had this constant reaction to speak Spanish, without thinking, Spanish words would come out of my mouth. And it was really hard. And on top of that, I had no idea, coming to Bavaria, of how differently the people here actually speak comparing to other regions of Germany. And at some point, I met somebody who was speaking Hochdeutsch, they were from another part of Germany. And I was like, oh my God, I understand so much more. What is happening? And then I realized that of course, my German was also not the best, and it was slowly getting better as I was staying here. But also, I realized how much accent here people actually have here and how differently they speak in Bavaria. So that was crazy, and it's still to this day is really frustrating to me because I'm learning German and still I learn another type of German, and then I go out on the street and it's still very different than what I learn. And also there is a huge problem with practicing for me personally. Everyone is different, everyone has a different life. For me, I don't work in German, I don't speak German at home, so I had almost zero interactions with like locals, and even now still I have very, very little interactions with locals just because there's always like English around all different aspects of my life. And when I came, I actually almost straight away subscribed to a German course which I found in the town. It was an offline course in a group, and I thought that it will just really help me not just to learn German but to also meet people. And very quickly I realized how inefficient that course was and how little I was learning, or almost nothing. But the most important was that there was no speaking practice, and since I didn't have any speaking practice outside of classes, I was like, what am I doing here? This is not going to be enough for me. And so that's when I started with online classes. And I'm very excited to talk to you guys about Lingoda, an online language school. And this is crazy because Lingoda actually reached out to me to collaborate on my videos. And I was talking about Lingoda way before they reached out to me because I was already doing classes with them. It's just a first class. It's gonna be like a trial class. Let's see if I like it. Let's see how it goes. I really hope that I do like it and I stick with it. Ich bin nach Deutschland im September umgezogen. Ja, ich habe schon in Deutschland früher gewohnt, vor 5 Jahren, und ich habe mein Deutsch vergessen. Ich habe Deutschunterricht am Wochenende, aber nur einmal jede 2 Wochen, und es ist nicht genug. Also wir sprechen kein Deutsch und ich arbeite zu Hause und ich habe kein Praktikum. Also ich will mein Deutsch verbessern, weil ich verstehe nicht. And that's actually how I found out about Lingoda, because I have seen it so many times in other people's YouTube videos. And I'm super, super happy that Lingoda actually reached out to me. And you know, I was actually surprised because I'm not a huge influencer and my channel was really small. So I was super excited and happy to collaborate with them. And I want to share with you a little bit because I'm really, really a true fan of Lingoda, and they helped me a lot to learn German. So Lingoda is, as I said, an online language school, and they have native speakers all around the world who teach you languages. And it's amazing because the fact that the teachers can be all around the world means that you can actually book a class almost anytime you want. You know, like 5 in the morning, 10 in the evening, it doesn't matter, because there will be a teacher who will be available at that time. And so they offer English, business English, French, German and Spanish, and you can choose from one-to-one to group classes. And one-to-one is actually the classes that I did, and I really, really loved it. You can choose from grammar to like listening or reading, but the best thing is, even if you are choosing a grammar lesson, you will still have so much like speaking practice. And that's the best thing about Lingoda, is that you get to speak, which is something that I always missed in like actual normal offline kind of old school courses. And here is a very, very cool thing. Every now and then Lingoda does a sprint challenge. A sprint challenge is a 2 months very, very intense language program where you get to do a lot of classes and you have a chance to get your money back. So there is a super sprint challenge and a sprint challenge. A super sprint challenge means that you take 30 lessons per month for 2 months, and if you attend all of these classes, you get, attention, 100% of the money back. Who does this? I have never heard of anything like this. And I wish I actually found out about this earlier when I just moved to Germany, but at the time I was so overwhelmed with like the whole moving situation that I was not so focused on learning German. But this is an amazing opportunity to learn really quickly. And yeah, if you don't want to commit to so many classes, there is also a sprint challenge where you take 15 lessons per month. And then if you attend all of them, you get 50% of the money back, which is also freaking amazing. So guys, if you want to learn a language and you want to dive really deep and also get cash back, this is an amazing opportunity, and I can 100% recommend Lingoda. I've done it myself. They have really high quality classes. So if you want to try, sign up with the link below and put a code Polina for $25 or 20 euros discount on your purchase. Thank you so much, Lingoda, for reaching out to me. All right, let's move to the next point. The next struggle, the next big challenge that I faced when I moved is to figure out the self-employment aspect in Germany. Okay, there is so many opinions about German bureaucracy in general. I wouldn't 100% agree with people who completely hate German bureaucracy and say that it's super horrible and inefficient, because I've lived in Spain. And if you have lived in Spain, I think your opinion would be different. But the thing is, like, yes, maybe bureaucracy in Germany is a little bit complicated, but at least somehow it makes sense and it actually works. Like, there is structure to it. There is some kind of order, you know what I mean? That is not the case in Spain. But the thing was that I used to be a freelancer before moving to Germany, and in Spain everything was already settled for me. It was quite easy in terms of taxes and, you know, just being a freelancer and so on. After I moved here, this was an entirely different world, and since everything was in German, I just couldn't figure it out. First, the whole taxes world is something that I hate the most in my entire life. Like, this is the worst thing of adulthood, is everything to do with taxes. That's how I feel. Doesn't matter in which country I am, it's just not clear for me. I just always struggle and I just always hate it so much. But yeah, to figure out how to register in Germany as a self-employed person and to have a medical coverage, which in Spain it was really different. In Germany you have to actually hire your insurance by yourself if you are self-employed. It was just too much information for me, and since there was also so many other things going on, I just couldn't figure it out. And it's so stressful for me to figure all these things out by myself, especially when it's in German, and the bureaucratical German is just insane. Like, I can translate every word and still not understand the sentence. But yeah, the whole bureaucracy is really challenging to figure it out, especially when it's outside of some typical path, like it was for me, to be a self-employed, to be a freelancer, rather than just being employed. The next big struggle is, I will not say weather, because it's not necessarily about the weather, even though the weather is very different from Spain. But I come from Russia. I know what bad weather is. I have lived there for many years, and it was much worse than in Germany. But I think it's the combination of, you know, this really long and gray winter and living in a small town, which makes the colder months, winter months, really lack activities, really lack any life for that matter. And it was just really difficult. And actually I made the whole other video about this, if you're curious, about winter and about living in a small town and how difficult it was. It was really difficult. Like, I was struggling in winter here, to be honest, and I learned a lot. Like, I know what I will do differently next year, but this year I just didn't have time or energy or whatever to figure it out and make it better. And also there were some COVID restrictions which didn't help either. But my mental health in winter months here was really not the best. It's just living in a small town. There is really nothing going on for winter months. I feel like Germans are very homey people. There is no one on the street in winter. Even on the weekend, there is no one. And it's just a little bit frustrating somehow after living in Spain to come here and have this feeling that everything is kind of dead. When in Spain it's like the opposite. Everyone is out on the weekends, especially on Sundays. Everyone likes to eat out, and the weather allows, of course. So I definitely don't blame Germans or anything like that. And I'm also like a really homebody. And when I was moving here, I thought maybe actually Germany is gonna fit me better. I like to stay in. I like cozy, rainy days. You know, I don't mind like doing things indoors and just not going out all the time like Spanish people. I really thought that German lifestyle would fit me better, but it caught me by surprise how even I needed things to do in winter, and I was just bored for months. Maybe like January and February were the hardest, I would say. In March the weather started to get a little bit better, but yeah, that's definitely a struggle and a challenge, and I think it will be kind of a challenge for many people who come from warmer areas or warmer locations, not because of the weather, but because warmer weather means that there is just a little bit more life and people are more outgoing and so on, and there is just more things to do outside and so on, like more variety. So yeah, this lack of things to do, and on top of that still like not having friends or something like that, it was really, really hard. And the last challenge, the last struggle that I want to mention, it's related to just generally higher prices and higher taxes here in Germany. And of course, this totally depends on where you come from originally. So if you're coming from freaking Norway, you're gonna be like, what is this cheap place? Like, why is everything so cheap? Like, that's crazy. But if you're coming from a cheaper location like me, Spain is generally quite cheap in terms of food and services, which I didn't think so when I was in Spain, but now that I can compare, I think it was cheap. So it's definitely something that you have to make peace with, to be honest. You cannot do much about this other than finding other ways to make income or increasing your salary somehow and so on and so on. But you cannot do anything about prices in the country and taxes in the country, right? So it's definitely something that can be kind of a struggle and a hard thing to accept in the beginning, because it takes time to accept. Like even things like electricity, much more expensive in Germany than it was in Spain, and food and certain services. So many things that you're not gonna just stop doing. You're not gonna stop going to a hairdresser. You're not going to stop going to some classes. Like I always went to yoga classes, and in Germany I want to continue. It's not like I'm gonna just stop doing everything, and everything is way more expensive. So it's just something that takes a while to kind of accept. And yeah, I mean, there's not much to do about it, but I guess you have to just push yourself outside of the comfort zone. If you want to have a good and comfortable life, you need to find new ways to earn money or increase your income and so on, because yeah, you cannot do anything about prices. But this is definitely something to keep in mind. And also the taxes, actually, I want to mention it separately because to know your full salary, for example, or how much you're getting before taxes, and then see how much is actually excluded from your taxes, it's almost like painful at first, because you just don't expect it. I mean, you know, like, okay, yes, Germany is a country with higher taxes, but when you actually come and you actually see this money taken from your account or taken from your salary, it's really, really hard to accept it in the beginning. Alright guys, I think that's it for this video. It's a really long one. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked it. Let me know in the comment if you also moved to Germany recently or not recently, and what was your biggest struggle. Did you also struggle with similar things like meeting people and just like taking a long time to learn the language and so on? And yeah, let me know how your experience went. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.